Are the Seattle Seahawks about to land the next franchise cornerstone in the draft, or will they shock everyone with a bold, unexpected pick? As mock drafts swirl and experts debate their top needs, one thing is clear: Seattle's next selection could reshape the future of the franchise. With analysts projecting everything from lockdown cornerbacks to dominant offensive linemen, the anticipation is building fast. Will the front office play it safe, or swing for upside and star power? Draft night could define the direction of this team for years to come. If you have been following the buzz around the Seattle Seahawks lately, you know one thing is clear: this draft could define the next era of football in the Pacific Northwest. As we get closer to the NFL draft, expert mock drafts are heating up, and analysts across the country are trying to predict what direction Seattle will go. Will they take a franchise quarterback, build up the trenches, or add another explosive weapon to the offense? Today we're diving deep into what the experts think and what it could mean for the future of this franchise. Let's start with the big picture. Seattle is in a fascinating position. They are not rebuilding from scratch, but they are also not a finished contender. General Manager John Schneider has a history of making bold moves, and that unpredictability is exactly why mock drafts for this team are all over the place. Some analysts believe they'll go best player available. Others think they have very specific needs they cannot ignore. One of the most talked about possibilities in recent mocks from ESPN and NFL Network is quarterback. Even though Geno Smith has had strong stretches and proven he can lead the offense, several draft experts believe Seattle could be planning for the future. Names like Drake May and Michael Penix Jr. have been linked to the Seahawks in various scenarios. The logic is simple: if a top-tier quarterback slides within range, Seattle might see it as too good of an opportunity to pass up. Analyst Mel Kiper Jr. recently projected that if one of the elite quarterbacks falls outside the top 5, Seattle could be aggressive in moving up. He pointed out that the roster is competitive enough that inserting a young quarterback to develop behind Geno for a season might be the perfect long-term plan. Meanwhile, Daniel Jeremiah suggested that Penix could be an especially intriguing fit given his arm talent and experience in high-pressure situations. But quarterback is far from the only direction mock drafts are pointing. Defensive line is another major theme. Multiple projections from CBS Sports and Fox Sports have Seattle targeting an edge rusher. Names like Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, and Laiata Latu continue to pop up. The reasoning is straightforward. The Seahawks defense has shown flashes, but consistency rushing the passer has been an issue. In today's NFL, if you cannot pressure elite quarterbacks, you simply cannot compete at the highest level. Some experts believe Turner offers the most upside as a pure speed rusher. Others argue that Verse brings a more complete, NFL-ready game. Latu, meanwhile, is viewed by certain scouts as one of the most technically polished defenders in the class. According to projections from Pro Football Focus, Seattle's defensive front could see immediate impact from any of these prospects, potentially transforming the entire unit. Offensive line is another area generating heavy buzz. If you've watched this team over the past few seasons, you know protecting the quarterback and establishing a consistent run game has been a roller coaster. That's why names like Joe Alt and Talise Fuaga keep appearing in mock drafts. Analysts argue that building a dominant defensive line is the safest and smartest investment a team can make. One insider from The Athletic suggested that if Seattle stays put and the elite defensive prospects are off the board, they may pivot to the trenches without hesitation. Fuaga, in particular, has been described as a tone setter, someone who brings physicality and attitude. Alt, on the other hand, is praised for his footwork and pass protection skills. Either way, drafting a tackle could signal a commitment to long-term stability up front. There's also a dark horse possibility that some mocks are starting to explore: interior defensive line. Jajon Newton has quietly been projected to Seattle in multiple simulations. Newton is considered disruptive, explosive, and capable of collapsing the pocket from the inside. Pairing an interior force with an upgraded edge presence could dramatically elevate the entire defense. What makes these predictions even more fascinating is how divided experts truly are. There is no clear consensus. Some believe the team must prioritize defense to compete in a division loaded with offensive firepower. Others insist the quarterback question cannot be ignored. And then there are those who argue that the smartest teams always invest in the offensive line first and let everything else fall into place. We also can't forget about the skill positions. While it may not be the most urgent need, some bold mocks have floated the idea of adding another dynamic playmaker alongside DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Although this scenario seems less likely in the first round, it speaks to how unpredictable the draft can be. If a highly graded receiver or versatile defensive back like Cooper DeJean falls, could Seattle resist? History tells us not to rule anything out. Under former head coach Pete Carroll, this franchise developed a reputation for surprising selections and trusting their internal evaluations over public consensus. While the leadership dynamic has evolved, the front office philosophy of valuing unique traits and upside remains strong. Another layer to consider is trade scenarios. Several analysts believe Seattle is one of the most likely teams to move either up or down the board depending on how the draft unfolds. If a quarterback starts sliding, they might package picks to jump ahead of another quarterback-needy team. Conversely, if their top targets are gone, trading back to accumulate more selections could align perfectly with Schneider's track record. What's especially interesting this year is how deep certain position groups are. Edge rusher and offensive tackle both have strong depth, meaning Seattle could still find quality even if they move down. Quarterback, however, is top-heavy. That dynamic alone could influence their strategy significantly. So what do the majority of recent mocks actually predict? If you tally up projections from major outlets over the past few weeks, edge rusher appears to have a slight edge as the most common pick. Turner and Verse lead the pack in frequency. Offensive tackle comes in second, with Fuaga and Alb generating steady buzz. Quarterback projections are fewer but carry enormous intrigue due to their long-term implications. The biggest takeaway is that Seattle sits in a power position. They are not desperate. They are not forced into one obvious move. That flexibility is something many franchises envy heading into draft night. It also makes them one of the most fascinating teams to watch. For fans, this uncertainty creates both excitement and anxiety. Every mock draft sparks debate across social media. Should they secure the next franchise quarterback now? Should they double down on defense? Is this the year to finally build a dominant offensive line that can control games in December and January? Experts will continue to adjust their projections as pro days conclude and front office rumors swirl. But if there's one consistent theme emerging from recent mocks, it's this: the Seahawks are expected to target impact. Whether that impact comes from a quarterback with star potential, a relentless edge rusher, or a cornerstone tackle, analysts believe Seattle is positioned to add a player who could shape the identity of the team for years. And that's what makes this draft so compelling. It's not just about filling a hole. It's about defining the future. The next face of the franchise. The next defensive anchor. The next foundational piece that keeps the team competitive in an ever-evolving NFL landscape. So as we count down to draft night, keep an eye on those expert mocks. But remember this: the Seahawks have never been a franchise that simply follows the script. Whatever name gets called, chances are it will reflect a long-term vision that goes beyond one season. The question now is not just who the experts think Seattle will draft. It's whether the front office will follow the consensus or shock everyone once again. Draft night is coming, and all eyes will be on what direction this franchise chooses to take.